If you want to hear a really good story, I should have kept control of it myself.
I'm sorry. I don't know, for some reason I don't know, I'm tired, sorry.
It's probably a good thing. I think we just saved Stu's life.
Yeah, if you want to hear a really cool story about how stupid 24-year-olds when they're working at defense contractors are, listen to the podcast when it comes out.
Sorry, yeah. We've been streaming for about 10 minutes.
Probably.
Sorry, and we're recording for about 10 minutes. I apologize.
So the second stupid thing was when I was working at nights, and they had the office supply room, they had big stacks of cover sheets for confidential and secret. So you could, and they were cool looking, and I happened to be running a GURP Cyberpunk game at the time, and I'm like, I want one of those cover sheets to put on my.
It's cool.
Wouldn't that be awesome?
Really
Like
cool.
a real, actual cover sheet from classified documents.
We talked about last week about our favorite props, right? Because you're Mr. Props and stuff, and that like fits right in your milieu.
Yeah.
You would be like, oh, here's the. Okay, not only does this look cool, because it's back before there was like a lot of color printing and charts and stuff. You would have had like an official document. Yeah.
And now I could just make one, or I could probably download one off the internet.
Probably, yeah.
But I thought it would be really cool, and I got really close to taking it, and then I just put it in my briefcase and leave. And then I realized about 1 out of every 10 times when I come through with my briefcase, they ask me to open it and they rifle through it. And if they were to see a secret cover sheet in there, even if there's nothing else with it, I would be asked some very serious questions.
Yeah.
So I decided not to. That one I didn't.
At the very least, you get a good glaring at by your editor.
Oh, she would probably at that point suggest that they fire me. She put up with a lot of shit. Lori. Was her name? Is her name? She works. I think she works up. She's still not different part of the company now. I think she still works for them.
Oh.
All right. So we have our D10 questions from Ruth from England, and then Daniel sent us 5 questions. We'll probably do 1 or 2 of those.
Okay.
Some of those are big topics.
Yeah.
I noticed.
Okay.
So who wants to roll the D10? Let me find, because on my sheet I scratched off this one. Okay.
I will do it. But I have to find a D10 first.
I have it here.
I should have just grabbed any kind of ones I should have. All right. 2.
Giving characters a little extra spice. Does someone else want to read this, or you want me to read this?
We don't have it, so
Yes, you do.
do it. Nope.
There you go.
Just make sure you give these back to me.
Thank you.
Question 2, Stork.
Giving characters a little extra spice. Spice. The spice is life. What are your tried and true methods for giving characters a little bit of extra texture outside of the steps of character gen? I used to be a big supporter of the method of giving my new characters Hogwarts houses and MBTI?
I gotta look that up.
MBTI types. Now I ask as many loaded questions as I can, and then come up with a nice list of things that the character does. Like, if they had an 80s TV show, what would they be doing in the intro? Reading a book in a spooky library? Swashbuckling with a sword atop a biplane? That really helps me set expectations to uphold or subvert.
Okay. Myers-Briggs.
All right, okay.
Which is...
What are
useful to make a
character,
character.
yeah.
Totally.
But not useful for people.
What are your best tips here for making characters that are fun to have at the table? Do you always give them a big flaw, a complex goal? Do you port in any systems like bits from Burning Wheel or aspects from Fate? Period.
I like to play this cool game that's based on tarot called Decima.
Very nice. Which is available.
Oh yeah, goldenlassegames.com.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean that's basically what Decima is. It's like a character generating questions. I think that coming up with like random questions, or like I love the idea of doing like, okay, if your character was a kid in the 80s, which TV show would they be watching on Saturday mornings and stuff like that, as long as everybody knows what you're talking about in the group and is like able to answer that question. I made jokes with some friends about 80s cartoons the other day, and they were like, oh, I wasn't born yet. And I was like, I know what all my friends on the podcast feel like now.
I was just going to say, now you know.
Now I know how it feels.
Used to mock us for archaic references, and now you're that person.
I know I am that person. So
Time marches on.
I know it does. So I really like that. And I also think giving your character a goal is pivotal. Even if you never tell anybody else that goal, always tell your GM that goal if you can, because it's super nice for them. But that lets you know like what direction your character would be going, no matter what happens with the rest of the plot, and that can change as you play.
Sure.
But of the things you listed, like giving them a complex goal is very vital and important.
See, when I read this, because I play so infrequently, I immediately assumed this question was about NPCs.
Oh, I mean, it works for that too.
And I had never thought of using Myers-Briggs classifications, which to me, even reading through the definitions of what INTFJ are supposed to mean, it reads to me like a fucking horoscope, which I believe has about as much foundation in science. But I generally use like role-playing prompts. Now that's different for NPCs than it is for your character, right?
Right.
But I always put in like little prompts like nervous, suspicious, friendly, gregarious, just 2 or 3 like adjectives to sort of describe what the character's like. So when I'm portraying the character, I'm portraying it consistently, hopefully. But I think that using Myers-Briggs for that would be fantastic if I could continue to remember what all those things mean 5 minutes after I read the definitions. Right. And what is the other thing he mentioned about?
Oh, like the aspects of fate.
Oh, like a Hogwarts house.
Yeah.
Very similar.
Burning wheel stuff. Yeah,
No,
absolutely.
Use a horoscope. You can use horoscopes.
Absolutely, you can 100% do that. There's a lot of people who
Any
do that.
bullshit way people classify people, you can use for characters.
Yeah, anything. When I was in theater, we had a color system for like oranges are really outgoing and gregarious and stuff like that. There was like a whole that they taught us for to like when you get something handed to you as an audition, like pick a color and then you can immediately identify, oh, this person is blue, they're emotional and kind of introverted. Right. So that was something I still use to this day. I like read it, and because of all my theater training, oh, this person's a green, okay. Like, so it's just...
Color analysis? Is that what it's called?
I don't know. I think there might have been something like that. They literally handed us a sheet that was like about like acting, like an improv,
Oh, okay.
So I think at one point it was based on color analysis, but they didn't present it to us as like a scientific thing.
It's just a shorthand for the actor too.
Color analysis. I heard about this. I only knew about this because I kept taking a film school class in college that you got to watch a free movie every Monday.
Yeah.
Because for college students, you get to see a free movie every week. So, and there was a kid in the class. We had. I can't think of the name of the movie. Blue Velvet was the movie, and what's his name came in and talked afterwards.
David Lynch?
Yeah. And someone did a color analysis of Blue Velvet as they were watching it. And he had a very funny quip after that, but that's not relevant. Okay. But that's the only time I found out about it. And they use it to classify the characters.
Oh, yeah. It's probably the same thing.
Each character has a color.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's something similar to that. And just because I did that for so many years, that's what I tend to jump to. But anything you know that can, like, classify them.
I talked about it before, and I still use it, but it's an actor shortcut, which is the animal forms.
Right, yeah.
And I know, like, if you think it's all woo-woo-woo, it was something that Anthony Hopkins used in Silence of the Lambs. He played... Hannibal Lecter as a lizard, very reptile-like, which motivated the whole thing, and then the never blinking and the very monotone. All of that stuff was motivated from reptile.
Well, even if it's woo, like, if it puts you in the frame of mind of the character, like,
that's true.
Like, getting into a character doesn't have to be scientific.
No, not at all. No.
Whatever gets you there.
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely.
But for main characters, for like characters I'm playing, lately I've just been basing it off of movies and stuff or people, like Rockford Files, like a detective. Right. I was like, I'm deep diving. Who's my favorite detective?
It's funny because the character you made is almost Harry Dresden.
I think, because once I started thinking about it, I'm like, I think that's where he started. It was the same place I started. I'm going to make a private investigator in the medieval world.
Yes.
And then one thing led to another. And even the fact that it's called the Dresden Files or the Rockford Files. And
I had not made that connection. I think you're probably right.
Yes. But anyway, that's a...
Yeah, I didn't think about that.
I will start with archetypes or even established characters. Like, I don't know, the first few Call of Cthulhu games we did way back when Call of Cthulhu Cthulhu came out, we all made a lot of Indiana Jones archetypes. I think
Yeah.
a bunch of us even
Sure.
had whips, because that's where you start.
Exactly. And they probably have stats for whips.
They did.
100% they do. Of
Not
course
that you
they
used them. But
No.
and then so you start there, and then it sort of morphs as you play. I mean, there's a favorite cartoon somebody posted way back, or one of my favorites that somebody posted way back in the forums, which is somebody made a joke character who was a jester who had like +2 to pie fights.
Oh, no, that was a web cartoon.
Yes, it was.
Yeah.
And then it's like when they first
Slappy!
start, Slappy, right? And then at the end, it's like he's holding up the wall. It's like
Yeah.
it's all torn. It's like, I love you, Slappy. I know. I'll always think of you.
Pacifica.
Go without me.
Yeah.
It's like
so good.
episode number 20.
Yeah.
Because your character changes, and where you started is not where you're going to end up. Even like after like the third game, you're like you suddenly sort of lock in.
You don't even really
you're
know
doing.
who your character is when you start it in the game.
No.
Nope.
You know what I mean?
No, like you can like have an idea and you made a backstory and all these things, but it definitely changes and you definitely get to know them as you go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you figure out who they are as when you figure out how they react to certain events. And that, yeah.
And even interacting sometimes with the rest of the party
Yeah.
will help establish. It's like, yeah.
All right. So thank you again, and we'll be thanking you more. Who's that? Ruth from
Yes.
England. And then, okay, let me...
10 years of doing this, we've never come up with a random question generator. It took Ruth to do it. Thank you. Thank you
you.
so much.
If we get a big random question generator, we don't need listeners.
No, it's a terrible
We'll
idea.
replace all of you.
See, what we need though is like we need like cards that have different like parts of questions on each one, and then you just like flip, and then they switch and they make new questions every time.
Like a big wheelie, a big crank.
Would you have like
a slot machine.
or like
Okay.
a game
questions.
like Decima?
yeah,
Right.
This is where she was going
I-
here. Keep up.
Well,
I know. I was with you. I was
How
with you,
many-
Kimmy.
is it-
I wasn't plugging Decima, but I was like, I can make this game.
Is it inventory? You got a lot of inventory you're sitting on. So.
No, I don't know. It's all still in the warehouse. They ship it out from the warehouse. It's nowhere
they
near,
do? Okay.
Yeah, I
You
don't have
have-
to worry about it in my house at all.
Oh,
It's
good.
nowhere near
Okay.
there. So
But she was also very smart and made inventory that's very small.
very small.
She could have like 2,000 of them.
And
in
on
one-
another continent, so I never have to see it or count it or worry about it.
It's like Boggart CDs. It's like we started out with regular jewel cases, then we went to digipacks, which are a little bit thinner, so
Yeah.
it's only like 6 boxes rather than 8.
Yeah.
And now we're thinking about going to the little sleeves and only ordering a couple hundred rather than 1,000.
See, I went one better. Like, my band is just not doing any fucking CDs.
I wouldn't.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we're doing all digital
In fact,
distribution.
we've been talking in the last couple of days about what CD sales might be like because we haven't had
Yeah.
skipped 2 years of fair, and every year CD sales go like this.
It's a universal problem. I was just scouring the ASCAP website about what other people are doing with it, and they still say it's still 45% of sales is still CDs. I know
People
it's
want a
less than
memento.
50. Yes, and some people just still do CDs.
There's some they're dying off.
Yes,
by
that's
the
why
day.
it's at 45%, and then places abroad. But the point is, it's something. Taylor Swift is dealing with it.
Oh, sure.
She can afford to deal with it, but she's dealing with it.
Right.
It's something that's affecting musicians across the board, no matter who you are.
Yeah.
Yeah. But we'll talk after because we brainstormed some ideas for merch. Anyway, Ruth. Okay, we did that one. 5 questions from Daniel in Australia. To the Venerable Mr. Venable and the most wonderful gaming gang, greetings from the sunburnt country. Daniel from Australia here. After a long hiatus, with our state getting up towards those sweet, sweet vaccination targets and things opening up again, I've been reacclaiming myself to the hobby by catching up on the Happy Jacks and heard the clarion call for emails.
Woohoo!
Here's a bunch of mini topics. Use them at whatever pace you choose. Now, there are 5.
Okay.
I believe it is 5. Let me make sure. 1, 2, 3.
It would have been good if you'd, like, numbered them. Or bulleted them.
I think that's what I'm doing now.
Let's just read the first one. We'll start there.
There's 5. There's 5 of them.
Okay.
Stork, roll a d5.
No, that's what I was going to say. I was like, really? 5?
Just roll a d6 and count.
4?
So that's a 2.
No, it's a
That's a,
It's a
that's a
D20.
4. Yeah.
Okay.
But
Right.
you rolled
You
a 4.
divide it by 4.
Oh, I didn't hear divide. He rolled 1 through 5, so I was like, oh, we'll just go with the actual
You
number.
divide by 4 and round up. Wouldn't that give you a d5?
I
Yeah,
was
but
rolling
this-
a D. Yes.
So what number am I reading?
Oh my gosh, you guys are so complicated.
Just
We have 5 questions. He rolled a 4. Just read question number 4. Like,
Here's a 6 on a D10. You cut it in half, so it's a 3.
okay.
3. Okay. Your favorite rule book for fluff. Maybe we'll do 2. Do you have a rule book you read for fluff? I have 2. The Emerald Empire from Legend of the Five Rings 4th edition is approximately 97% fluff, including fluff on taint. Taint fluff, if you will. Taint fluff. Is that like pocket
No.
Taint fluff
We're
and
not
pocket lint.
digging into that. We are
Okay.
continuing.
I think we should unpack
There's the
that.
Warner Brothers
No.
quote, which is the Taint Funny McGee.
Oh God.
And I have happily read it cover to cover twice now, especially the taint parts. I'm especially fond of the half page devoted to how different clans make their chopsticks. The other
Wow.
is it. I don't remember that, and I think I have that book, and I think I have thoroughly read through that book, and I do not remember.
Because your eyes glazed over at that
I
point.
it's probably a sidebar. I tend to skip sidebars. Unless I
What? You
need-
don't want to read like pages of what was probably some white dude like guessing how these all different clans
I
made
don't-
chopsticks?
I don't know. But it's a fictitious world. It's
Right. I
so
know
who
that,
knows?
but it's like, yeah.
Devoted to chopsticks.
The other was an indie at the very top.
The other's an indie. Up here.
Oh, the other is an indie game called Beautiful Anomalies, essentially Doctor Who with the serial numbers filed off.
Ah.
But that summary does the game a great disservice. It is currently undergoing a 2nd edition development, but 1st edition has some of the most delightful fluff I've ever encountered, some laugh-out-loud whimsical, and some poetic and tragic. On a related note, the blue is the next
blue
line.
is on the next
It's not a blue note. A blue note would be like the flattened 5.
Yep.
Tell us about a setting you love. I'm deeply excited with the new edition of Blue Planet, Sequest DSV, with the generous side of helping from James Cameron's Avatar. And I recently got access to the previous edition via Kickstarter. I'm looking forward to a quiet moment to digest the setting, but the premise has me hooked. You want your Fall Over Dead?
Okay. I tend to read, and I hate myself for this, a lot of the World of Darkness fluff. I went through a lot of the Vampire Clan books, reading about what they did, where they were, what their philosophies were. Changeling, loved it. I mined that one for a whole game I was doing. I took their courts and I took their fairy, the whole thing. I really love their fluff. And their games are hard to play, and it's often hard to play because you're having to go through all the fluff to find the rules. But boy, do I love some of that. They've been around a long time, and they put a lot of thought into their world, and some of that stuff is really fascinating reading.
I think some of the best fluff books I've ever seen, 4th edition D&D.
Yeah, there's that too. That was the second on my list.
The Plane
The
Below.
Planes.
Those books were fucking fantastic. The
They
game
were.
was terrible, but the fluff in those books was amazing.
I read the whole thing about the Githyanki and the Githira, and I was like, "This is so cool."
Githzerai or whatever
yeah.
they're called. Yeah, the two they were like one. Then they broke
And they fly
off.
around in boats in the
Yeah, in
ethereal
the-
plane. They're so awesome. The whole
That,
thing's
can't
so
remember
awesome.
what book that's not in the Plane Below. The Plane Below is the undead one,
Yeah.
which I thought was creepy as fuck. And the only reason that's the only 4th edition D&D book I still have because I used it to prop up one corner of my bed. And when I gave away all my 4th edition books, that one got stuck, and I'm like, I'm going to keep this one. 'cause
Was
I
the
really
Traveler
like-
5 too thick? It just would set the book.
Well, yeah, that makes the other two sides corners rock. But I thought their fluff books were fantastic, and I really, because they don't publish as many books today as they did for 4th edition.
Not yet.
I don't
Give
know.
them
If
time.
I don't think they will, because remember they had 3-player handbooks and all that.
Publishing's
Shit.
expensive too.
It is. It's very expensive, and they're crowdsourcing it now. They're having third parties do it and put it on their.
But I'm with you. I've got a bunch of those just because
They
they
were
used to have
fantastic.
just separate books.
Yeah.
Like devoted
Tons
to
of them. Yeah.
And they read like little novels, and they're just each page is full of ideas.
Mm-hmm.
Even if you don't play that system, it's full of ideas.
Yeah.
which is the same thing I do with the World of Darkness Changeling stuff. It's like, even though I'm not going to run it, although I'm still really mage curious, really want to play a mage game.
So do I.
I really do. The
just-
whole open-ended
fuck the
magic just seems
technocracy.
so cool. But anyway, I read it just for the ideas, and it really inspires me.
I don't tend to read this very much. I like to make up my own stuff. I've almost never run games. I don't think I've ever actually run a game in a setting that came with the game.
You didn't steal from them, though?
I mean, I think I did in like a way that was like, I have read things about things
okay.
like that. Now, before actually I was gaming, I was super into Forgotten Realms and all the lore with that. Like the Seven Sisters, I read like a bunch of their novels, and like I actually had, I don't know if I still have it, I probably would have to look, a bunch of actual like D&D game books that had a bunch of fluff in it, even though I didn't play D&D at the time, just because it was cool and it had like information about
Right.
all the different things. So I guess that would be like the closest. Generally, if I'm gonna run a system, I guess Vampire I kind of dove in, but like super basic, like I didn't do a deep dive.
Right.
I probably should have. People who are listening to the podcast probably would be like, "Well, you would have done a much better job being adventure if you fucking read the book, Timmy."
Yeah, but it's surprising
Now you're
how...
perfect. We're going to put a pin in that.
Yeah.
That's a difficult issue. I'm going to concentrate over here.
Yeah, I'm gonna do this. But I think those are the ones that like, I don't know, just like the D&D ones. I think just 'cause for the most part, they're so like.
I didn't even think about the novels as a source of...
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I don't know.
there was a shit
Does
ton
that
of them,
count?
The
I
Dragon
would,
novels?
I would say it
Yeah.
does.
Yeah.
There's 4 of them that are really, really good. It's like Dragons of the Autumn Sun or something, and there's like 4 in that section that they really hit their stride with.
I read the... I don't know if I read... how many Dritz novels are there?
Too many.
500.
No, there's not that many.
I know, I'm just kidding.
Because I read like the Dritz of Mesberazbin or whatever. I can't remember the name.
Yeah.
Of it. Mesberazbin.
The only one I read is Postnasal Drist.
I read that one. That's kind of his origin story about how he leaves the Drow and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And then I think I started the next one. The Shard of something. Or,
Of Shannara?
It's one of the big ones because there was like a main line of novels about where Dritz is part of a party, and it's that party.
Oh yeah.
I can't remember.
I don't remember that, but I know what you're talking about.
Shard. I don't remember.
Yeah.
But I didn't. But I suspect they wrote the Dritz origin novel after all that shit was done.
Probably yes.
I would assume.
Yeah.
But that's the first one. Crystal Shard. That's it.
There you go.
The Crystal Shard. Shards and shards.
So
Who knew?
yeah.
I did. To this day, you tease me about it, but I was right.
You were right.
There's a difference between shards and shards.
A setting that we love.
L5R.
Yeah.
I love L5R.
That's really good.
It's so complex and
Yeah.
and rife with hazardous moral dilemmas.
Yeah.
It's just awesome. I love it.
There's drama.
I get L5R. I get so concerned.
It's stressful to play an
Stressful
L5R
to play.
game.
I have the same.
If you're
I have
not
the same
stressed
reaction
out
to
when you're playing
Vampire.
L5R, you're playing L5R
I'm
wrong.
like, okay. If I make this,
I mean, okay, maybe.
Well, you have certain moral certainty too, which is also can be very freeing.
That is very
Yeah.
freeing, and I think because I've played like for the most part characters that were very like, this is my path. It was like, fuck it, this is my path. Like wherever the fuck this takes me, like that is where we're going. It
Right.
may be certain doom at the end of that path, but I know this is the right one.
Right.
It always ends up in seppuku for me.
Yeah,
Or Duel.
Yeah.
yeah.
Or the Taint. It never stops being
Never not
funny.
going to be funny. I think.
Remember the first guy that wrote an email in about
Yes.
L5R?
Yeah.
And Taint, and we were like giggling like 11-year-olds.
Not as
and
bad
he
as
then wrote
when-
an irritated email after
Yeah,
that.
he was really upset at us. He was very disappointed.
Like,
Like,
you wrote
how
into
they- yeah.
11-year-olds, and you got what you got.
He was like, okay, here, I'm really looking, and then we just failed all his expectations.
Yeah,
It
no.
shot so
I
bad.
know.
Sorry.
I'm actually a fan of the Traveler universe.
Yeah.
Oh, the Third Imperium?
Just all of the work, because you can pick and choose from whatever you want to do and use that as the basis of your story. But people forget how long it's been around and how much work there is, and the fact that there's that whole galaxy map online that you can find.
Travelermap.com or net. I can't remember what it's called.
Astonishing. And
It's
one of those planets.
Vast.
You could click on a planet, and people have done work on it. Most of them.
Well, they at least give you the universal planetary
It's
code.
astonishing, and it's all there. And every one of those, like, you find a sector that. Anyway,
One of the most
So
amazing
cool.
things about that is somewhere, because the lore for the Third Imperium setting is very contributory. There's a lot of people who put stuff into that. At the time when the little black books were out back in the late 70s, early 80s, Paranoia Press was producing third-party stuff for Traveler. Sega was producing third-party stuff for, it was not Sega, is it called? FASA, sorry.
FASA, yeah.
Was producing third-party stuff for Traveler. So there was because it was like,
which you could still use for Mungus without
absolutely.
too much, without
Yeah.
just.
and I have some of that stuff. I got some of it
still-
on eBay.
It's still relevant, which is awesome. The game is so well designed that it didn't need to be fixed.
One of the things that because there's all kinds of little nuggets like hidden in that Traveler map thing.
That's what I'm saying.
And one of them is, if you go and look in the Zodani Consulate, which is one of the political entities, and you zoom in and you start going coreward towards the galactic center, because most of the stars are uncharted. They have their codes, but there's nothing at all. But there is a series of star systems that leads from the coreward edge of the Zodani Empire, or Zodani Consulate, towards the galactic core, and it was an expedition that those Zodani sent to see how far they could get to the galactic center. Because obviously radiation gets really bad when she starts getting too close to each other, and there's probably big, massive black holes at the center of it, and who knows what. But there is a huge line of probably 75 or 100 star systems where they jumped from one to another, and those star systems, there's more detail about them, but you can follow this path. And like the Third Imperium and all that is like long gone, long scrolled off that map.
Yep.
It's amazing how vast
is
that map
huge.
is.
It's as big as the actual universe, it seems like. Because I spent hours just zipping around looking at, and occasionally you'll click on a planet that's been fleshed out by somebody.
Right.
It's very cool.
Well, see that because one of the things that a lot of these third party companies did when Traveler, first edition Traveler was in its heyday, is they would produce sector books, which is basically your own setting. That was kind of the beauty of it. It's like, here's the Imperium if you want to play within the official setting, but you just go like one sector this way past the Imperium, and it's a whole different ball game. And there were, because I used to own two books that Paranoia Press came out with, Beyond and the Vanguard Reaches, were the two of the sectors
Vanguard
they
Reaches.
produced. Those are all on there. All the star systems and everything
I know.
are all included in that
It's
map.
still there. It's still relevant. It still works. Anyway, the technology, that game is still works, and it's still well thought out, and it's still really good. And you can play a lot of really great games in that system.
And you know what? Mongoose Traveler is really supporting second edition
Good for them.
MGT.
Good for them.
Because and this is like the third or fourth notification I got. They just updated the core rulebook again. So they went in and they fixed a bunch of errata and stuff, so you can go and get an updated PDF of the thing. And that's like the third or fourth time they do
I
it.
can't recommend that game enough.
Not very many people do that.
No.
They come out with a game and here's an errata sheet. Just stick it in the book somewhere. Fuck you.
We talked about Mongoose years ago. I actually like their style. It seems like that they are very... clearly it's run by nerds and geeks, and they are very precious with their IPs.
Yeah.
Judges Guild. I had a couple of Judges Guild products too. There was something on Trantor. No, it wasn't Trantor. Trantor is from Asimov. I can't remember what it was called.
I had a lot of the FASA books for sure.
Yeah.
And you can still get some of that
the
stuff.
FASA books were fantastic.
Yeah. And then there was the Traveler Quarterly magazine.
The Journal to the Traveler's Aid Society.
Okay, and that's still out there on the internet. Again,
I have a few copies.
It's kind of like the Dragon magazine was
For Traveler.
For Traveler, and it's again full of so many cool settings and ideas and things.
FASA came out with their own periodical called High Passage.
Oh yeah.
Which was their own, and it's still the digest. It's the small digest-sized magazine.
It's still relevant too. I think I have a copy of it somewhere, and I looked at it. I'm like, all of these stats still transfer over.
Yeah,
Cool.
it's really nice when a company like opens up its setting and says add to this, because you can always ignore shit that's stupid, but it gives you so much more shit to draw from.
Yeah.
I love it.
You could even take. There's been a couple of Traveler offshoots. There was a GURPS Traveler, and there was a Mega Traveler, and some of the lore in that is different, but it's still
Mega Traveler's
useful
the
to
one that
mind.
has like that's with a big virus thing, the computer.
Exactly. Yes,
What
that's
was
part
called?
of it. I've forgotten too, but again, it's full of nice stuff that you can use in your
Yeah.
campaign somewhere else.
That was like we're going to take the Traveler universe and we're going to have an apocalypse of some kind.
And it was D20, I think, too, instead of the 3D6.
Mega Traveler? I don't know if
so.
there was a D20 Traveler.
Yeah.
That was, but I don't know if
GURPS
that
Traveler, that was another one, but
was. Well, they came
All
out.
that said is-
they came out with. There was I think it's a 3rd edition Traveler, GURPS Traveler, and then they came out with a setting in 4th edition for GURPS that
Really?
was set prior to Terra being brought into the Imperium, when there was the Soleimani sphere. Actually, it's before the
Look at him
Soleimani
go.
sphere.
Look at him
Well,
go.
it's
Amazing
GURPS.
recall.
Yeah.
It's GURPS. I own them.
Okay.
I have the books. Well, it's one book, but they actually picked. It's like tech level 10 rather than 15, which is the default Traveler tech level. So it's earlier, and it's like Earth has interstellar travel and has like moved out to a few star systems, and then they kind of bumped into this second Imperium, which is the Volani Imperium, which is massive, and it's kind of about like the new kids on the block who just discovered FTL travel, and they're all humans. But these humans up here are like, oh, you have pyramids that are how old? 8,000 years. Wow, my starship is 9,000 years.
Yeah.
Oh. It's like, son, we've been around and flying in space for a long time. What have you been doing?
It's very much when the Vulcans came and showed
Yeah,
up.
it's
showed up
similar
in,
to that.
Discovered
It's
World.
actually worse because there's like this massive empire from the Volani. But
Volani, Vulcans.
yeah, well, they're
Coincidence?
just humans though. They're all humans. All right.
I think for me,
Yeah, we didn't get to Kimmy.
Yeah, it's okay.
We talked and talked.
mine is homebrew. I actually really love Eldamy.
Oh, thank you.
Aw.
Like I don't know. I think it's because it was like the first setting we played in, like back in
Right.
4E before we started recording APs or anything, and then like we've played a bunch of campaigns since then, and we've like built the world, and
Right.
I don't know. I just love it, and I love fantasy. Like even though I almost never play any fantasy games,
Right.
Like so, I don't know. That one's got a special place in my heart.
Well, thank you.
We were gaming with Chris. We're gaming with Chris every other Sunday.
Yeah.
And we were talking about the rhinos that you guys
Yes!
have.
Right.
And Stu reminded me that happened in Eldamy.
That's
Yeah,
right.
it did. It's totally an Eldamy.
The I am no mere hedge mage.
That's,
Yes.
that story came out. Yes, that's right.
Yep. Oh my gosh, that's so funny. And we,
But Stu reminded me, he goes, that also happened in Eldamy.
Yeah.
10,000 years from now,
Yeah.
that actually happened in this world.
absolutely.
Right.
What do you
Should we do one more? Or
Yeah.
I'm looking at the time.
Yeah, let's
it's
do another one.
8:20. Okay. Roll a D4.
D4. Where's the
That's the
This
D4?
one.
Yeah.
All I see were D8s. You look for a D4 and you see D8s. 4.
4,
Which is actually 5.
5. Raise your hand in chat.
This
if
is
you
one
get
about
that joke.
fate. None of us really know much about fate. Let's see what he has to say.
Kind of.
It's not you, it's me, how I left fate and fell in love with Cortex. Oh, so it's not about fate.
Okay.
Never mind. This section will get a bit rambly, so feel free to exercise editorial judgment. None of that here. So I heard Stu...
Judgment, you mean?
Editorial judgment.
Oh.
Yes.
So I heard Stu had been trying to get into the Cortex system and its gorgeous rulebook.
I'm sorry, what? Okay.
Cortex system and its gorgeous rulebook.
We can say things about that rule book. I don't.
It is pretty.
It's very.
It does
pretty.
look pretty.
At least it's pretty, right?
It is. It's organization.
I've had relationships based on less. Thank you for that setup, Kimmy.
No problem.
But let's see what he has to say
Okay,
before we destroy it.
Destroy it.
And to be perfectly honest, I've just kind of flipped through it and like,
Oh. Yeah. Oh. Oh.
if he's still struggling, I The core mechanic is a bit strange, but straightforward once you know it. Instigator of the encounter rolls 3 dice, 3 or more, 99% of the time, to set the stakes. D4s are poor, up to D12s are top tier. 2 dice get added together for a total.
Mm-hmm.
A third dice is selected for its size, D4 to D12, not its rolled value.
See, my eyes glazed over already.
This die is called the effect. So taking a verbal argument as an example, a high total, low effect might be a very minor barb delivered with absolute precision, whereas a low total, high effect could be a social life-destroying insult, but potentially easily countered. Oh, yeah?
Well, yeah.
So's your mother.
Yeah.
Universal comeback.
Yeah,
right there.
I actually like the Cortex system. I like
Right.
this mechanic, and when we played it in Jib's game, I actually really liked how it worked. Still don't like the book. Sorry.
Right.
Continuing.
Potentially
opposition,
easily
yeah.
countered. The opposition then makes a choice: accept the effect dice as a consequence, a la fate, or roll and try to beat the instigating roll's total. This can go back and forth in an escalating game of push your luck until one side fails to beat the total, which results in, depending on the options chosen, some variety of taken out a la fate. Okay. Where I love Cortex over Fate is all the things that would be aspects in Fate have a dice rating. And if they apply, you add them to the pool. No metacurrency required. That's nice. Trying to make some money on the stock market with a D8 insider information, throw that in your pool. Currently suffering from a D10 broken leg. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
The thug trying to cave your dome in adds it to their dice pool because the final selection is always 3 dice, 2 total, 1 effect. No matter how many dice are in the pool, it allows for a greater variety of factors applied to the roll.
Yeah.
And as a consistency in application of special circumstances without completely throwing off the probability curve the way a stack of +2s would in Fate. Okay. I understand that now. Also calculating probabilities outside of accessing Deep Blue or some other nearby supercomputer is almost impossible, meaning choices are based on guts rather than math, which I quite like. Speaking of L5R, that's one of the reasons I like L5R, because the roll and keep system, it's really hard to know which is better. Roll 4, keep 2, or roll and keep 3.
Yeah.
I don't know. Someone with a math degree can figure that out, or who understands math a lot better than me.
Probability
But
curves
no
and
one,
all that,
very few people are going to do it in their head like that.
Right.
Fate's single axis, while elegant and simple, starts to feel very restrictive when you want to ramp up your character complexity. And while aspects are always true,
The
modifiers to the dice say otherwise, which makes it hard to square that circle. Cortex seems to solve this dilemma by adding width more so than height. It reminds me a little bit of Wild Talents.
Yeah. No, that's one of the reasons I think I like
Yeah.
it. You have your dice pool. You pick the things you like. Yeah.
And it's like, but that's like, here's the one roll.
Yeah.
This will decide the whole thing. This is like a push your luck back and forth until someone
You
fucks
do a
up.
lot of rolls. Yeah. Yeah.
And the one time I played it too, everything stops while you assemble your dice pool. So every time you're doing rolls, people are making it. So it takes a while to assemble your dice pools every time you're doing an attack, and it can get irritating. So you're in mid-combat and everybody's assembling dice pools every time.
Yeah. It's still nothing compared to D&D most of the time.
Right.
Yeah, but
But-
at least with D&D, it comes to you, you roll, go, all right, and then it moves on.
Nobody does that in
No,
D&D.
that's true. Where am I? What's
Oh,
going
it's
on
my
here?
turn? Oh, I'm sorry.
I was
Where is that?
I was checking my phone.
What's the one right there? What's
What
the
happened to the
dot?
one that was there?
Yeah.
Oh, it's dead?
It's not it's not their fault because it took 20 minutes
Yeah.
for it to get
sure.
to them.
You can speed up Cortex, like you kind of know ahead of time, and after you get used to it, like
That's
we
true.
played for weeks, so by then it was like, okay, this is my dice pool for 90% of the things when we're fighting, and this
That's
is my
true.
dice pool for 90% of the character
I
mechanics.
love push your luck mechanics, too.
Yeah.
Like, remember
Me
we
too.
played Zombie Dice?
Oh, yeah.
It's just such a simple game, But it's so much fun
I
because
gave it
of
to
that
everybody
push
I
your
knew
luck
for
thing.
Christmas one.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It's like, here, take this camping, and they came back and said thank you. It was like the
so
perfect
sad.
camping
The
game.
app finally broke on my phone.
Oh no!
I
so
finally
something like that?
updated my. Yeah, it was so cool.
did
It
not
was
know.
like a couple months ago. It was mid-pandemic because I was playing it a lot on my phone, and finally I upgraded to the last iOS, and it was like.
And it broke the app.
Yeah.
Shit.
I was like, oh.
Especially how the
Height and width.
Cortex,
Yeah.
more so than height, to the probability space. You can add 3 d12s to your pool, and that's a huge benefit, especially in how the effect die is chosen.
Mm-hmm.
But they could all come up ones and leave you failing the roll regardless.
Yeah.
That's the same thing with Savage Worlds.
Yeah.
I think it was
Right.
Tappy that had done or read an article about how it might actually be to your benefit to have lower dice in your pools as opposed to higher ones because
Well, you have
the probability of rolling a
D4s are going to explode 25% of the
there
time.
you go.
Right, yeah.
That's it.
And, yeah. I hope Stu will give it another chance. I haven't even not given it a chance yet.
Yeah.
I mean,
Cortex
I've-
or Fate?
Cortex.
Yeah.
I flipped through the book.
Yes.
I do want to try running it
Yes.
because I am intrigued by it. I don't know if I'll run Cortex Prime or if I'll run one of the like pre-Prime books.
Yeah.
Numbers.
Again, I think we like the system. We hate the book layout and the book organization.
And who knows? It might make sense once you actually start going through it, and you're like, "Oh, there is a method." Maybe there is. I don't know. But it seems like I bought a role-playing game construction
Yeah,
set.
a little bit. Yeah, there's a lot of optional stuff in there that, like, if you want to do it this way and if you want to do it this way, and they need to have just like, I don't know, they make it more complicated. Even as somebody who played a full campaign of it, like looking through it, I'm a little bit like,
See, I started doing that with Moment of Truth.
yeah,
When I originally started doing Moment of Truth, there was all kinds of stuff you could change, and then I'm like,
Yep.
I'm not giving anyone a game. I'm saying, here's
Yeah.
how you can build a game that's like this game that I kind of made.
I've been doing the same thing in Starscape. Like, I had all these things, and this is optional. You can do this if you want. You can do this if you want. And then people were like, I don't know what to do. And you're like,
yeah.
you want me to tell you how to play? That's why you're buying a game. Got it.
Turns
Okay,
out,
cool.
yeah. We discovered the same thing. I was like, and I ended up putting a few sidebars, which I always skip.
That's fine when you're writing a game.
that's
Let's
funny,
put this in the
'cause, like,
sidebar. But
that's almost all I ever read in a game
me
book.
too. Me too.
But I think I'll put in a sidebar and say, like, because I called them dials, I think. Like,
Yeah.
if you want, like, your target number can change if you want a more gritty game or blah, blah, blah. And so, but there's like 2 or 3 sidebars in the book somewhere that, like, if you want it to be like this, here's some optional rules that you can, because it's different if you have optional rules rather than here
Here's
is
another
some
way to do
Lego,
it.
Yeah.
make a role-playing game
Yeah.
out of it.
Or recommendations, because Wild Talents does that too. It's like, if you want this type of game, build characters with this many points, have the bad guys be about this many points.
Right.
And then if you want a super huge, like, Superman apocalypse level game, this many points. So
Hero
it's,
does that.
yeah, and so it's basically like, it's the same mechanics. You can just like ratchet up like how extreme it is, but
Right.
it's still in the same framework of the system, which I think that's a great way to do it. Turn up the heat.
You can consume and digest the additional modules one at a time, considering how they change the core game before moving on. Don't try to just read it end to end. That's like going out for dim sum, throwing the whole meal in a blender and chugging the results.
Oh, oh.
Which is exactly what it's like once it's in your stomach.
Yeah, but
Yeah, but then what's the point?
why rush to that? I mean, I get
I
that.
no,
but why?
my gag reflex is going too. I don't know, but I don't understand why, because that's how it's going to end up once I've eaten it. Maybe it's because it's like once it's been blended, it's like eating food that someone else has already chewed for you.
Okay, so like I'm going back.
Trigger warning.
Yeah. So going back. So basically, we're supposed to read the book like we do the Silmarillion.
Exactly.
We don't read it from beginning to end. We read it as small individual pieces.
That was my mistake with the Silmarillion.
Yeah, you
I
can't
tried
read
to
it as
read it
a
like I
novel.
was reading Lord of the Rings, and
No.
instead it was
I don't
like,
think anyone's actually supposed to read the Silmarillion.
It was not supposed to be read. Nobody was supposed to read
Yes.
it. It was like leftover
That's like
stuff. They
like
published
my
later.
Mandite novels. I have a Bible
Yep.
that it's a separate Word document. It's like every time I introduce a new character, here's a character, cut and paste what their physical description was, a little bit about who the
We
character
know
is.
that's our
and what they
big plan. When you die, we're going to publish it.
did. It's like 12 pages long.
I don't put a thing in the beginning. Don't read this like a book, end to end. Read it like individual stories.
In all fairness, and maybe Kimmy can shed light on this. I mean, I was 14 when I read The Silmarillion, and I only read it in
That's
English.
probably about how old I was when I tried to
and
read it,
I read it
too.
in English. It's probably better than the original Elven.
No.
No?
No. I mean, I read it like my early 20s
I was
when
so
I read
hoping
it.
you were going to correct me on the Elvish language name.
It's Quenya, but
Thank you.
or Sindarin, depending on which elven
See,
race
it
you're
would have been
talking
in the
about.
original Zindarin, don't you think?
No. Quenya was the older one.
Oh,
That's
okay.
like the original
Then-
language.
then
Sindarin
definitely.
is like what Legolas speaks because it's never mind. Anyway.
No. See, that's awesome.
Yeah, that's like the wood elf language. It's like the younger language. Ooh,
And
those
which one did you learn to
people.
speak?
Quenya, I did.
Okay.
Because I've got class. Anyway.
Actually.
And you hate dwarfs.
No, I don't.
You turn your back on them when they're in need. Wasn't he one of them?
Yeah.
Whom?
What?
The dude on the elk in the movie.
Oh, he's Sindarin. Well, actually, I don't know. Yeah, I think he is Sindarin.
Elrond is.
No, Elrond is half elven. Galadriel is
That's right.
spoke Quenya because she's actually from Valinor. I actually don't remember if Legolas's father, whose name I can't think of right now.
I can't remember it either.
He is like one of the kings of the Sindarin elves, but I don't know if he is. I think he is Sindarin. I'm almost 100% positive because I don't think he came from Valinor.
Because he seems all foofy too.
Yeah. But
I guess they
that's
all do.
also the movie, and that movie is terrible. So nothing in that movie.
Oh, that's right. That was in The Hobbit, wasn't
We
it?
don't speak of this.
Yeah. I still stand. That first movie, especially that fucking song, was goddamn awesome.
Yeah, it was really good. The
Fucking
so good.
awesome.
It started so well.
Oh yeah, it did.
I had
was so good.
I got pissed off when they kept running back and forth in the mine for like 45 minutes.
Or the
Run!
they-
Run!
Well, that's the second movie, isn't it?
I don't know. I
Isn't
never
it?
watched
That's all second movie stuff, isn't it?
the barrels. Weren't the barrels in the first movie? I try not to think of them.
Well,
I don't know.
the barrel. I remember the barrels. That happened.
My gag reflexes.
Yeah, but not for like 50 minutes. It wasn't like a like.
And the CGI in that was terrible.
Yeah, it was so bad. It's like, let's watch bad CGI, because water's super easy to make in CGI. Let's make a whole scene of that. That's fine.
And then put Legolas like trying to leap. Yeah, that really helped in the realism.
Anywhere. Let's try and make him look younger, like really desperately, so he
Right.
looks super
The
strange.
physics of hopping around in a barrel is bad enough, but let alone when you.
Okay, I don't think we have enough time in this
No.
podcast or the rest of the podcast this month for me to like continue about
You know
the
that dim
movies.
sum thing we got you going. This is getting my gag reflex.
Finduil of the Mirkwood. Yes, thank you.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Daniel from Australia.
Yes, the Talari who never saw. Yeah. Oh, Erica, I love you so much, Erica. Odd. They're like geeking out with Lord of the Rings stuff. And
Right on.
stuff. Yeah.
And I need all that.
Did
all
we
that stuff.
actually? Were we supposed to answer something? Or were we just
No, he was just telling us about it.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. I agree. I am not actually a Fate fan. Like, it seems like a game that would be like right up my alley, but it's a little bit too wiggly, squishy for me.
It's like, I don't know.
I spend a lot of time looking at aspects and figuring out how I can game it. In any situation, I'm like, is there darkness? Is it dark? Is it old? Is it what? And I'm always looking and looking around. What can I tap? What can I tap? And it's cheap.
And it's
I'm out of
almost
the
like
game
it's a
at this
game that's
point.
making you a min-maxer.
It is.
Not a
It
min-maxer,
is.
but like a munchkin.
And so I'm out of the combat now, and I'm busy looking for things that I can exploit
Right.
for my next turn. And it's not. I'm out of the game. I'm not
Right.
role playing anymore.
Exactly.
I'm trying to figure out an exploit.
All right. The thing. Is that it?
Sure.
Yeah, look at
You're
that.
in charge. Yeah.
First time, huh?
Good job.
Thank you for joining us for season 29, episode, was it 10? 10 of Happy Chicks Opening Podcast. My name is Stu.
My name is Kimmy.
I think I'm stored.
Yeah.
It might be 10.
And we'll see you not next week, not the week after, but the week after that, January, whatever, 6th,
In 2022.
2022. Thank you very much. And we'll see you then.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.
Lord preceding program has been a presentation of the Angry Folk Media Empire.